Hello, everyone. This talk is titled Ingestum FOSS NLP Documents Ingestion Library, and it will be presented by Walter Bender, Martin Abante Lahaye, and Juan Pablo Ugarte. Walter is probably familiar to past LibrePlanet attendees since he has given several talks, and he is the founder of Sugar Labs and maintainer of Music Blocks, a celebrated educational free software music program. And Martin is a long-time free software and gnu+linux contributor. And Juan is a great developer and maintainer and a GNOME contributor since 2005. And this talk introduces Ingestum, so named because it's used quote unquote Devir common content sources like PDF files, HTML, Twitter, and so on, in order to make them computer readable for NLP projects. And the stage is yours, guys. Let's begin.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much. I want to put everything into context so you have an idea what we're doing and why we're doing it. So it was a little more than a year ago. It was 1 year and 1 week ago where I was sort of sitting on the fence wondering, should I go to LibrePlanet or not? Because I hadn't yet decided to make the conference virtual, and I was wondering, am I going to actually go in person? I was very nervous about COVID, as most people were. And so one of the things that I was doing was I was trying to read as much about COVID as I could. So monitoring lots of literature, downloading PDFs, looking at websites, trying to go all over the place to learn as much as I could to figure out whether this was a safe thing to do, to go to LibrePlanet. As it turned out, it wasn't, and LibrePlanet did an amazing job of, in 5 days, going from an in-person conference to a virtual conference, and kudos to Ruben and everybody else who made that magic happen. But what happened when I was downloading all this literature and scraping all these websites, I bumped up against a problem that I end up bumping up against quite a bit in my day job, and that is to say, there's all this content out there, all these documents out there that I want to bring into one place and have one framework in which I can look at them and analyze them and maybe run some AI on these documents to find out what's changed, what's new. And I had no way of doing that. Everything was done by hand. Now, I know that there's some proprietary systems out there that do some of that automatically, but I'm a big advocate of free software Libre, and I wanted to have a free software tool that could make that an easier process. And so that's why Martin and Juan Pablo and I have been developing this framework we call Ingestum. And I'm going to give a quick overview of what Ingestum is. Then Martin is going to actually show you how it works. And Juan Pablo is going to show you some magic that once you have this software Libre framework, you can start to build all sorts of things on top of it. So quickly, let me just describe the problem of ingestion itself. And that is, there's all this content out there, and it comes in all different forms. It might be a PDF, a LibreOffice document, lots of XML and web pages, obviously, audio recordings of Jitsi meetings, emails, Twitter feeds. We do a lot of work with medical literature, so lots of stuff on sources like PubMed and ProQuest. We get scanned documents, all sorts of stuff out there. And the problem is that while there's lots of tools to deal with these individual components, there's not really, there certainly isn't any FOSS tool that's both methodical and extensible and scalable to deal with gathering all this content and processing it so that you can look at it in the consistent and repeatable way. So that's the problem that we're trying to solve, is to build a FOSS framework to deal with this. And the reason why it's a challenge is really because it's just really fragmented. There's so many different ways in which even if we just take one source like PDF documents can be built in so many different ways. There's just not any kind of consistent way to look at them. Some PDF documents are just very straightforward. Some have a mixture of scanned images and text, and some of them, the text itself is just a scanned image. It's just a mess. If you've ever actually looked at that problem, you realize quickly that it's just so many little corner cases, and it's really impossible to wrap your head around. And if you multiply that by all the different types of sources, it's crazy. So what we want to do is bring FOSS to help solve this problem and resolve this problem. And that's why we took advantage of a real wealth of really powerful tools that are part of the free software collection of tools. So, I mean, probably anybody who's sort of been in this space at all has used tools like Beautiful Soup. It's been around forever. PDF Miner. There are lots of really good tools out there. And what we wanted to do is to build a framework around these tools so that you wouldn't have to sort of build a bunch of one-off solutions for each problem that came your way, but you could have a framework in which you could reuse components and build end-to-end solutions rapidly and flexibly. And that's really where Ingestum comes in. This is really the tool that we've built and that we hope gains some traction and get some contributors beyond the three of us. And we're super excited about it and really happy that we were able to convince our company that this is something worth releasing as a free software platform so that everyone can benefit and everyone can contribute. So basically what Ingestum is, and you pronounce it Ingestum, is it's really a way of writing a script that will source content, transform that content, and then allow you to express that content in whatever sort of universal framework makes sense for the problem you're trying to solve. So it's really, it's all written in Python, and it's a collection of services that you piece together. It works quite simply. It looks a little more complicated than it is, but it's actually quite simple. There's sources. Sources get transformed into documents. You do further transformations of those documents. The transformations themselves are in the form of pipes and pipelines. There are conditionals available within the context of all this, and you can have a manifest that describes what sources you're interested in processing, what pipelines you want to apply to those processes. So schematically, it looks a little bit like this. You have sources on the left, whatever it is, a PDF, XSL, tweets, PubMed. They come into the pipeline, they get transformed, and typically what comes out is a JSON description of the content. And again, the details of what that JSON looks like is really up to you. There's lots of convenient defaults and a whole library of transformers, sources, inputs, outputs available to you that you can piece together any way you want. And with that, what I want to do is hand over to Martin and let him, Martin, do you want to grab the screen and show us this in practice?
Sure. Just give me the presenter.
Let's see if I can do that. Actually, can our moderator do that? Let me go back to the room.
Okay, I can take presenter now. Yes, I found it.
Okay. All right, great.
Okay, all right. Let me share my screen now. Can you see my screen? Oh, it seems.
Here it's going.
Now
it's
it's
starting.
working.
Yep.
Can you see it now?
Yep.
Can you see the dragon there?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So hello, I'm Martin, and I'm the lead engineer behind Ingestum. And well, what I'm going to do is just to write a very simple example of the different concepts that Walter was explaining before me. So yeah, let's start by a very simple code. So what we are going to do is just extract something out of a source file, then modify its content and its structure. So let's do that. From Ingestion, import sources, right? And like Walter was showing, we have basic support for a lot of different sources so far. But this is very extensible, so we can keep adding things as we go, whether it's in the core source or as plugins. Then the actual mechanism that does the conversion between sources and documents are transformers. And what we are having in the middle through all these transformations are called documents. So let's start by something simple. Yes, my keyboard switched to Spanish. Sources, PDF. So I'm gonna first ingest something very simple, which is this PDF that I have in here. This is one of the PDF we use for unit testing. So as you can see, it has different things like tables and shapes and different images. And yeah, just writing Ipsum text. So what we are going to do is to extract the human readable text out of this. And there's a transformer for that, and it's called PDF source create text document. And yeah, transform. We passed it the source. Okay, so to see what's going on, I'm just gonna do some good old prints here, but I'm gonna use this pretty print option because it's much readable. So print, and then we can print the document. And let's see what typos are there. So our development environment is actually a toolbox container. So it has everything we need already. Let's see. Okay, so what you see here is just the human readable text that we extracted from the PDF. But that is just one thing that we can extract, right? I mean, we could extract different things out of a source, right? In the case of PDF, we could extract images, we could extract tables and things like that. And those are transformed to format agnostic documents, right? That we can later apply other transformations, because what we want is to transform the content and the structure. So let me write a very simple example of how we can transform those two things. So transformers. Now, what we are dealing with is a text document. Anyway, this is not a PDF anymore. So text document, a string, replace, and this will take a regular expression. And let's look for lorem, and let's replace it with libre. Okay, so transform, and then we pass the document. So let's see what happens here. Oh, one more thing, like I don't want all the text, so let's only stick to the first page. So if there's no typos there, we can see that now we have the text of the first page, but all the instances of lorem are replaced by libre. But let's try now modify the structure itself. So what we do is document transformers, and okay, thank God I don't have to memorize anything. So let's look at the documentation. And these are the list of all the transformers that we support. But the one that I want is this one, which would, there's a typo in the documentation, so it's a nice find. Okay, so what this is going to do is going to take this text document and it's gonna use this separator. use the separator to create something else out of this one transformer. Let me see.
You have a typo, Martin. You
Sure.
spelled transformer wrong. Document equals.
Document. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Walter. So let's see what comes out now. So now we see we no longer have one text document, but we have one collection document that includes a collection, a list of the different chunks of text that are resulted from splitting the text, right? But okay, so this is like a very, very hello world-ish example. But what I want to show here is this. So now we have this logic, right? And this logic operates over something called a text document, right? And a text document is really not tied specifically to PDF. So let me show you how we can reuse this, right? So let's try with something different, like with an image. So data test JPEG. And then we have a specific transformer to extract the text out of the image, which is called transformer image source create text document, and then transform, and we pass the source. So this image here basically just has the same lorem ipsum text, but it's an image. And if we run this and there's no typos, of course there was a typo because this is supposed to be called document. All right, let's go. And as you can see, this extracted the text out of the image and apply the same transformation that apply to the text that we extracted from the PDF. But again, let's go a little further here. And let's try with audio. So sources, audio, and then path, and data test one. Yes. Okay, so now let's do the same thing. So we have a transformer for this, and it's gonna, the name should not be surprising at this point, but it's called audio source create text document transform source. So let's see what happens. Okay, now it's extracting the text out of the audio, and we see like the structure is exactly the same, right? It's a collection of text documents, but this audio in particular is not really lorem ipsum, but it still has an in because it says industries here, so the separator apply here and it split the text. So let's try one more thing before we move on to something else, and let's try now with Twitter. And then again, I don't want to memorize anything, so this is what we need. And transformers, and we have to specify a search term, so it's gonna be LibrePlanet, and then transform the source. Okay, but if you look at this, okay, let's run and see what happens, but this is gonna fail. Okay, what it's telling here is that this transformer is expecting a text document, but this transformer is creating a collection of something we call form, because this is the usual use case that we have for this. But just for this presentation, I wrote a plugin that will do what we need, and it's called Twitter latest tweet. Yes, here we go. Latest tweet. Create text document. Let me transform this document, and it will do exactly what it does. It will take the list of tweets and we take the latest one, and we'll create a text document out of it. And now this should work if no typos. Okay, so yeah, this is the latest tweet from the conference, and there, yeah, it was it's the same structure. It's a collection of text documents, but as you can see, we can generate the same and apply the same transformations to the different sources. Okay, so this is not actually how we use the Ingestum, but it's a good way for prototyping things, right? What we actually do is we rely on a higher level concept called pipelines. And let me show you one pipeline here. Yeah, so this is a pipeline is basically a way to encapsulating a sequence of transformers, right? It's a little bit more complex because it's actually a pipeline is a collection of pipes, and each pipe is a sequence of a step where each step is a transformer, right? So each pipe can take an input from a manifest, like a PDF file, but a pipeline can also take the output of another pipe as input. And what we are doing with this is modeling a domain-specific language that help us to model the ingestion process itself. But there is one more thing that I want to explain before I pass it to Juan Pablo, and which is very important. So every single concept in Ingestum, it's built upon schemas, which means that we have a formal description of all the concepts, right? So for example, what I'm showing here is the base source, right? And we literally use this library called Pydantic, right? And that help us specify like the metadata about what these concepts are. And it applies to absolutely everything. And the benefit of this is that we can export pipelines. Let me see. So this is the one I was showing. Yes, pipeline audio. So what I can do is export this, and now I have a JSON description of that pipeline. And this is very useful for two things, right? One, it gives us a very flexible way to interoperate between different components of the platform that we are building in our company. And at the same time, because it is a formal schema, it means that all of this can be validated as we move this information around the platform. So that is very, very, very important. So now Juan Pablo is going to show what this kind of integrations look like, given that we can serialize or ingestion pipelines. Let me see here. And can you take the presenter, Juan Pablo? It's a button to the left, like the button.
Yes. Thank you, Martin. Okay, so my name is Juan Pablo Ugarte. I'm from Argentina. I joined Zero mid last year, and when this library was in the making. So one of the first tasks I was assigned was to come up with a tool to generate these pipelines that Martin mentioned before for PDF documents. So one of the requirements was that it was a web tool. So one of the first things I needed was a way to display a PDF on the browser. So the first thing I did was look into Mozilla's PDF viewer. And luckily, it's a really good free software piece of application. So I grabbed that and use it as the basis of my tool, which I call .meta. So here in the screen, you can see the diagram of DocMeta. DocMeta is a fast API web service that uses a few APIs from another services that are built using Ingestum. So we have a backend where we have all the projects and documents. We have the authorization service and the ingestion service, which is basically a simple API where you pass a pipeline JSON with the manifest describing all the sources you want to ingest. It processes everything and returns you the result that you just saw. So it's basically Martin in a box. And on the client side, I use Mozilla PDF.js, as I mentioned before, and we do a simple HTTP request to the service that relies the APIs to the different services. It's a little bit more complex, all because of this is all instead of the client talking directly to the service. We talk to this intermediate one to have everything in one place for authentication and also avoid the CORS problems to make sure that everything comes from the same domain. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do here, I have the DocMeta source code, and like Ingestum, if this is also made with Python, so we're gonna run it using gunicorn. So here we have it running on localhost. Let's open a new tab here, localhost. And the first thing it's gonna do is check if the authentication token is up to date. If not, then it will authenticate. And as you can see here, we have the UI from the PDF viewer, and all this is development UI currently. And I'm gonna show you, I have some demo here. Let's load the document. And okay, so one of the use case that we have, one of the first use case we have for this tool is when you want to ingest a form that you have. So you have multiple forms or one form with a lot of data, and you want to define a pipeline to extract all the data from that form. And you can do that quite easily. Let's make it a little bit bigger so you can actually see better. You can select in this tool. Let's select first a few form keys here, and then select some values. Something like this. You can move around, and then let's connect each key with each value. And let's move it closer here so it will grab the actual data we want. Once you created a document like this, here it will show the pipeline that the tool is generating and send it to the ingestion service, and it will show you the results. So let's see if this works. As you can see here, we created the pipeline. And this should be ingesting. The service is downloading the PDF. Okay, it's gonna take a while. Obviously, we are live, so it should take longer than usual. Okay, so here we have the results in a form document where you have, this is the form with an ID and the content. We have a dictionary of form keys and value. So you have customer ID, first name, last name, address, and city. So that's it. I don't know if should I show a little bit of the source code, but it's pretty simple. Regular fast API implementation. Any question?
Okay. There is a few questions on IRC. Can you hear me, by the way?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. The first one is from Drake Still, and can I use Ingestum to convert a PDF to an EPUB, preserving the basic structures as headings, paragraphs, formatting, etc.? In other words, does Ingestion do document layout analysis for images?
Kincho, do you want to take that?
Sure. Well, at the moment, Ingestum does not have any support for EPUB, right? So there's no transformer to turn that into an EPUB, but there's no reason why we couldn't write a plugin for, or you couldn't write a plugin for doing that, right?
Thank you.
Yeah, just to clarify a bit more, yeah, Ingestion would give you like all the basics for accessing the contents of the PDF and other tools to transform it, right? But if you want to export it to something specific, then that is not supported, then you can just write a plugin.
Yeah, and the other one says from Codiciosus, is there a link for Ingestion?
Are you seeing the link on my screen now? Or not? Am I sharing?
Yeah, you have to share the one.
Oh, I thought I was sharing, but I guess I'm not. Let me put the link up. Sorry about that. Too many windows. All right. Allow. You see the link now?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the link for the Git repository. And I'll paste it. I can paste this into the chat room after the talk as well. And this is a link to the documentation.
And another question says, how do I install Ingestion on my computer?
So Martin, do you want to take that and tell them about Toolbox?
Yeah, the easiest way to do this is basically clone the repository and then just build the toolbox container, which will do everything you need, and then just enter the container and use it as your development environment. Yeah, if you clone the repository, there's a subdirectory called toolbox, and there's a README there, and with everything you need. Just take a look at that.
Okay, and LibrePlanet attendee asked that, can Ingestion perform typical NLP tasks used for data curation, such as NER, open information extraction, etc.?
Let me take that one. So we've sort of separated out the problem of how do you actually extract the text from the documents to then what do you actually want to do to the documents. So we do a lot of NLP and NLU processing on the output of Ingestum, but we don't bundle that directly into Ingestum because we sort of see that as sort of two different jobs or two different tasks. So Ingestum is really about how do you take all these things that are out there that you want to actually process and get them into a common format that then your processing can take over and not have to worry about where it came from or how it got there. It's just, okay, now whether it came from Twitter or came from a PDF file that you downloaded from PubMed. It's all in the same structure that I can apply my NLP to. So we've sort of separated it, but that's exactly what we do. We apply, NER and things like that to the stuff that comes in.
Okay, I think there is no more questions. Thank you for this presentation. Thank you so much. I'm checking the IRC, but okay.
You are now unmuted.
Thank you again.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have approximately 10 minutes.
All right. So we can use
You
the
are now
room.
muted.
Is there
We'll
something you
stop
want to show,
sharing.
Walter?
No, I'm just stopping sharing so that I can see everybody. And because when I'm sharing, I can't see anything at all.
Right.
Oh.
Like if someone is interested in this, our documentation has a lot of examples, and yeah. Also we are Ingestion comes with a lot of default pipelines, we call it, right? For basically one for each of the sources that we support, right? And the idea is that to use that as a scaffold for building something specific, right? Yeah, there's no silver bullet here, right? But the idea is to provide just some basic structure, so pipeline developers can build on top of that and solve their problems.
Yeah, I mean, it really makes a big difference in terms of having components that are easy to reuse and it's really easy to drop a plugin in, and writing a plugin is like zero work. I mean, it's on the order of an hour or two. It's not days. And once you've got it, you can use it over and over and over again.
Yes.
And use it in different contexts. So.
Yeah, I just use one to fill a gap in my demo, right? Because the Twitter transformer, right? It returns this collection of forms, right? One for each tweet with a very structured definition of the tweet, but that is incompatible with the text document ingestion logic that I had below, right? So what I did is just write a plugin to fill that gap, right? And it just worked, right?
Yeah, or so back like to the EPUB question. One of our AI researchers needed a different document format, so I took the basic document format that Martin was demoing earlier and wrote something that basically flipped it inside out. But again, it was just a few lines of Python code inside of a transformer wrapper, and you're done. So it's really easy to extend.
Yes, and all these plugins can also be serialized, and I mean they become like first-class citizens, right? Because they live in the same namespace as the other transformers. So it's very convenient way of extending this without it gives you some room for experimenting.
And I guess the other thing is, again, because of the way we've structured things, Martin was showing audio and he was using a particular audio transformer, a library to actually in the transformer to get the audio, the speech to text. But it's easy. You could drop your own speech to text engine in if you want to use a different one. You don't have to use this. You don't have to make the same library choices we made. So
right.
as long as there's an API, you can just drop it in.
Yes. For example, we actually in Ingestum core we use by Tesseract, right? But for example, we have been experimenting with another library, right? So we have that as a plugin for now until we properly understand the pros and cons of this new library. But both can just coexist without an issue, right? But you don't have to merge it to the ingestion core.
And anyway, patches are most welcome.
Yes. Yeah, just start using it, and I'm sure you're gonna see some gaps, and I'm sure those gaps are gonna help somebody else as well.
Yeah, and again, we're sort of hoping that the free software community can sort of have a framework that they can use to solve this problem that, again, there are lots of proprietary solutions to, but not a open framework for. So hopefully it'll launch 1,000 ships.
Yep. That's why I like the I want to highlight something Walter mentioned, right? That there's so many great open source and libre libraries out there, right? But it's nice to have a way to actually use all of those together, right? So Ingestum is just the bridge between all of these amazing libraries, and it gives you like a mini framework so you can use them together.
Yeah. So yeah, we should say we're standing on the shoulders of many giants in this project. Yeah, I think I have nothing more to add. I don't know, Juan Pablo, Tincho.
Nope.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.